The colony ship Varatha's Dominion had 17 species aboard. None of them had ever met a human. Commander Naira of the Kethael watched the new creature through the observation glass and felt the thing she would later struggle to name. Not fear. The Kethael had no instinct for fear. Evolution had burned it out of them 400 years ago, along with patience and mercy and the ability to tolerate anything smaller than themselves. What she felt was closer to contempt. Measured contempt. Professional contempt. "It doesn't look like a weapon," said Varek, her second. "Nothing dangerous ever does." She tapped the glass. The human, designation, Lena Marsh, Interspecies Liaison Division, did not flinch. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor of the containment suite, eating something from a small foil packet, and she glanced up at the tap with the expression of someone mildly interrupted at lunch. Naira's contempt recalibrated. The Kethael War Doctrine had one foundational principle. You do not understand an enemy's threshold until you find it. This was why they had the Vreth cubs. 3 of them. Young Vreth, the apex predators of the outer cluster, all muscle and jaw and 200 kilograms of evolutionary spite. The Varatha's Dominion kept them in the lower hold as a living weapon system. Standard Kethael procedure. Deprive them of food for 6 days, then release them into whatever space needed to be cleared. The cubs were presently on day 5. "Release them tomorrow," Naira said. "Into the human suite. I want to see where her threshold is." Varek was quiet. "Something to say?" "The Interspecies Liaison Council will." "Varek." He said nothing further. Day 6. 0300 ship time. Naira watched the feed. The cubs entered the suite in the way starving Vreth always entered a space. Low, spreading out, filling the corners, communicating through subsonic rumbles that made the floor sensors stutter. Months of hunger compressed into their haunches. They were beautiful in the way all dangerous things were beautiful. The kind of beauty that made you aware, on some ancient cellular level, that you were looking at something that ended things. The human was asleep on her cot. The lead cub, the largest, the one the handlers called 6, crossed the suite in 8 seconds. It reached the cot. Its head was the size of a transit pod. It lowered its jaw to within centimeters of the human's face and produced a subsonic growl that registered on the pressure sensors at 94 decibels. Naira leaned forward. The human opened her eyes. She looked at 6. 6 looked at her. What happened next Naira would replay 112 times over the following week, frame by frame, trying to find the moment she understood it. The human said, "Oh no, buddy." Not a scream. Not the chemical fear dump that 17 other species would have produced in that moment. The one the Vreth were tuned to, the one that triggered the final sequence. "Oh no, buddy." She sat up. She reached past 6's jaw, past it, underneath it, and scratched the underside of his chin. 6 went very still. The human was already moving, extricating herself from the cot with the calm efficiency of someone who had simply decided this was happening now. She crossed to her supply case. She opened it. She removed 3 protein bars. She came back and sat down in front of 6 and unwrapped one and held it out flat on her palm. 6's nostrils worked. His ears, vestigial, mostly, flattened. Something in the architecture of his posture changed. The other 2 cubs, flanking, had gone statue still. 6 ate the protein bar off her palm. She gave him another. Naira watched the 3rd cub try to shoulder 6 aside for access to the human's supply case and get gently elbowed back by a creature 1/8 its mass. "No, your turn's next, hold on." Varek came to stand beside her. Neither of them said anything for a long time. On the feed, the largest apex predator in the outer cluster was lying with its enormous head in the human's lap while she worked through a crossword on her data pad, feeding the cubs protein bar fragments at regular intervals. "She's not even looking at them," Varek said. "I know. She's doing a puzzle. I know." The middle cub had rolled onto its back. The human was scratching its belly without looking up from her data pad, with the automatic competence of someone doing something they'd done 10,000 times. 6 was starved for 6 days, Naira said. She heard the flatness in her own voice. What she was feeling was not something the Kethael language had a word for. 6 days. And she, with a food bar. "Sir." Varek paused. "What do we do?" Naira watched the feed. The human looked up from her puzzle. She looked directly at the observation camera, at Naira, through the feed, across whatever distance of professional certainty Naira had believed she occupied. She held up a protein bar. She raised an eyebrow. The question was perfectly clear. You want one too? Naira cut the feed. She sat for a long time in the dark of the observation deck and thought about the Kethael doctrine. You do not understand an enemy's threshold until you find it. She had found something. She was not certain it was a threshold. She thought it might be the absence of one. That was worse. That was, in ways she could not yet articulate, significantly worse. She thought about it for another 4 minutes. Then she opened a comm channel. Varric, prepare a formal introduction meeting with the human liaison. A pause. And find out what a protein bar is. Bring several. She closed the channel before he could ask why. She already knew why. She just wasn't ready to say it out loud.